Hello and welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast, where leadership aligns with principles. I'm Ralph Adamo, your host, and I'm happy to be here with you. And I'm delighted to have our guest today, Juan Carlos, better known as JC Rosario of Apex Wealth Management Group. Apex Wealth Management Group is located here in Orange County as well, and is a wonderful clientele all in throughout California, and I think beyond the borders of California as well at this date. But JC, welcome. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, in full disclosure, JC and I actually have the same affiliations in terms of firms. Our home office firm, Kovac Financial Network, is a organization that is our broker dealer. It's also our registered investment advisory firm, and under which we are registered reps, under which we are investment advisory representatives. But JC, in addition to that, tell us a little bit about your personal and professional journey. Add in so our audience knows a little bit about you, your firm, and your own personal situation.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, we're part of the Kovac family. We've been working with Kovac for about 10 years now, but we've been in practice for close to 25 years ourselves. So we have, as you mentioned, we do have an office. Our main office is here in Orange County. We recently moved. We used to be across the street from the Angels baseball stadium, and we just got a very nice new location here on the 55 and 17th Street on the Tustin, Santa Ana area. So we're quite happy with that. We also have an office in San Francisco. And as you mentioned, we do work with clients, not only in California, but also on the East Coast and anywhere in between. You mentioned a state, probably we have a client that we work with in that particular state. As I mentioned, we've been doing this for about close to 25 years. We are a privately owned practice, wealth management practice. Primarily, the two advisors is myself and, of course, my wife, Angela, who you know. And then we have a staff that helps us with some of the administrative items or tasks here in the office. But yeah, we do comprehensive financial planning, wealth management, and most of our clients work with us long term, which is one of the reasons why we have so many clients in other states, because they move either because of retirement or because of work or for different reasons. But we continue working with them. So yeah, that's just in a nutshell who we are, what we do. We do have, on a personal level, we do have 5 kids. So we're busy, as you can imagine, all the way from 12 to 21, about 2 years in between. So 12, 14, 16, 19 now, and the oldest is 21, who is in Buffalo, New York. Got drafted to play basketball there, so he's going to school there. And then we have 4 girls at home, so I'm surrounded by women. And 2 dogs, so we're quite busy, as you can imagine.
Yes, the Rosario household is busy, and so maybe tell a little bit about yourself and your you have a little bit of a hobby. I don't know if it's a hobby; it's actually might be a profession as well, and your musical talents.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of clients don't know this, but I am a musician. I've been playing guitar since I was about 13 years old. I used to spend a lot of time playing. I mean, I was the one that would spend 7, 8 hours a day, essentially practicing and playing. When I was about 17, I started a music business
Yes.
down in Puerto Rico. I was teaching guitar lessons, and I did that all throughout college. In fact, this is how I was able to cover my college expenses. It was just doing music lessons. So did a couple of a lot of studio sessions when I was younger, and a lot of guitar lessons. But it's one of those things that is part of your DNA, is part of your blood. So I never stopped playing. I do it as a hobby now, of course, but Yeah, is something that I enjoy. Have a lot of guitars at home, probably too many, but it's something that I definitely enjoy, and is it's one side of me that a lot of people don't, are not aware of, but something that I definitely enjoy and been doing for a long time.
Yes, yes. I wanted to get that out there for the listeners to know a little bit more about you. That there is that other side to you as well that has a
Yes.
musical talent. Yeah,
Hmm.
fantastic. Well, turning to our topic, tell me something, JC. When you think about integrity, what does that word mean to you?
Yeah, I think integrity to me is not something that you do, is who you are as a person, right? I think that our actions, is something that, are the result of the type of person that you are, and this is something that obviously, is ingrained in your character as you're growing up. But yeah, to me, integrity is something that it's not something that you do when it's convenient or when it makes sense to have it. It's something that is part of you. It's just part of your DNA. It's part of your person, and you act accordingly because you can't do it any differently, because that's just who you are, right? So that's how I view integrity. It's just part of who you are as a person.
Yeah, part of the DNA and fabric in your composition. Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I always say you don't have to remember the truth
Right.
because
That's
it goes
right.
it goes with you,
Right. Exactly.
right? It goes with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how does it play a role in terms of your leadership with your organization, and what are the benefits when you see how you model it for your group?
Yeah, well, I think that, like I mentioned, and again, it's something that comes out of who you are. So I'm a strong believer that you teach others, especially those that are talking about our industry, especially those that are younger or even your staff. You set an example by doing, not by saying things, right? So how do you conduct yourself when you're dealing with clients, how you conduct yourself when you're dealing with the staff. Clients trust you 100%, and your staff knows that, and how you deal with clients, not only in front of clients but behind the scenes specifically, that makes all the difference, right? So I think with our staff, especially when we're dealing with things that are related to clients, or pretty much on every aspect of our business. To us, transparency is a key thing, and making sure that we're always doing what's right for the client, not because the clients is the lifeblood of our business, right? And as we always want to make sure that we're doing what's best for the client, and they do see that, and we just teach by example, not by just saying, you know we have to do the right thing, but just by doing the right thing.
Yes, absolutely. And you talked about modeling it in front of clients. What do you think in terms of the role that integrity plays with client loyalty and client retention? I mean, it's kind of an obvious question with an obvious answer, but I want to
Right.
get your answer.
Is everything, right? I mean, trust is everything. So the impact that integrity has in the loyalty that clients have with us as their advisor is because of the trust that we have been able to develop with them throughout the years. And this is one of the reasons why, when I mentioned earlier that we have clients that have moved either because of retirement,
Yeah,
because they want to be close to other family members. They can walk across the street and open an account at any financial institutions. I mean, you could essentially throw a quarter in the air and it's just going to land in some sort of financial institution. Why are they not doing that? is because of the trust that we've been able to, develop and establish with them over the years. And that comes with always doing the right thing for them, right? So, I would say that 98%, if not 100% of our clients work with us long term. Of course, you always have clients that for different reasons they have to move. They have health situations or they pass away, and obviously that changes things. But for the most part, most of our clients work with us long term, and it's because of that, because we have always made it, we have always done what's best for them, and we always put them first, and they know that. I mean, you're in the industry as well, so I know that your experience is very similar. Um, and yeah, clients trust us, and that's just the lifeblood of our practice.
Yeah, our profession has turned into, well, if we're going to be successful, it is
Mhm.
necessary that we retain the client for a long period of time.
Right.
This is no longer a transaction business. This is a shared journey I have found with our clients. It's not a one and done. That's not our model. It's not been the model for many years of a comprehensive financial advisor.
Right. Right. And to your point, there's a lot of advisors that just don't take the proper amount of time, right, to get to know the client. We're not, in our practice, we're not a transaction based type of practice, right? We're a relationship based type of practice. So a lot of times bringing a client on board takes us longer than most advisors, but there's a reason for that. We want to make sure that we understand the client's needs. We want to make sure that we understand what the goals are, what the risks are. It's almost like, to use an analogy, I have, some of my siblings are in the medical field. Um, you will never go to a doctor and say, hey, I have this cough, and he just prescribes antibiotics, but he doesn't do any lab work. You got to do the lab work, right? Why would you take that without knowing that no lab work was done? So, there's a lot of advisors that operate this way, where they can show you all these fancy graphs and all these fancy accounts or portfolios and all these different strategies. But the question is that the right thing for the client, right? So we do the lab work, we take our time. It takes longer. A lot of times it's a little bit frustrating for the client because they want to move fast, but we have to help them and walk them, by the hand, say, we have to do this to make sure that we're doing what's best for you, right? And
Yes.
once everything is in place, that from the beginning, it creates that trust. And it's just how we operate, is how we believe things should be. And as someone that I respect deeply once said, there's a thing called financial malpractice, right? So you got to make sure. And by the way, that person was Ralph Adamo that mentioned that one time. So that you were absolutely 100% right on that point. You got to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and you're taking the right amount of time, and that just creates trust and loyalty over time. Because clients know that you're taking your time to do what's best for them. You're not there just to get a client. You're there to, foster and develop that relationship over time to make sure that you meet their goals short and long term.
Yeah, I think that saying that I probably shared with you was prescription without diagnosis is malpractice in any profession,
There you go.
right?
100% agree.
Yeah, and our models, our compensation models, have kind of driven the behaviors in a different way. I mean, no longer is there this heaped compensation early up for a transaction.
Right.
Today, our compensation is spread out over many years, and it's reduced substantially. So the relationship has to be one that's durable and endures for many years for it to be actually profitable for both sides. So
Well, absolutely. And sometimes clients, they don't realize that, for advisors that are under that type of compensation model, it could take 4 or 5 years in some cases to get the same amount of compensation that other advisors will get in a matter of weeks, right? And that's simply because the structure of the compensation is different. But you're doing it because it's what's best for the client, and you're caring about the relationship. You're just not caring. You're not concerned about a transaction. You're concerned about the client and the long term relationship.
Yeah, that when we turn the centricity, as I like to say, when it's client centric as opposed to firm or revenue centric, then we have the right focus.
Absolutely,
Yeah, for sure,
100%.
for sure. Well, discuss with me a time you can remember without necessarily breaching anyone's confidence, a time when you remember where you encountered the lack of integrity, whether it was a client, whether it was a colleague, whether it was a friend, whether it was a partner, uh, that situation and how you had to respond to that situation.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can tell you one example, and I'll try to keep it as general as possible. But of course, as I mentioned, I've always had my own practice. There was a time. This is a long time ago, many years ago, where I started doing some joint work with another advisor, and made a lot of sense to us because he was more, his expertise was in a different area of planning. My expertise was more on comprehensive planning, retirement planning, this sort of a thing. And he was bringing clients, and we would work on those clients jointly. When I say jointly, in reality, I was doing about 90% of the work. The portion that he was doing was very small. But so I will take the same process as always, where I will just do my fact finding, meeting, and I will analyze the data, and I will just put together different strategies, and I'll put together a plan that will be the best fit for the client moving forward. This advisor was very focused on compensation. I was very focused on the client relationship, right? That was my focus, making sure that the client relationship was going to be there long term, and I was doing what was best for the client. So that started creating quite a bit of friction, because there was pressure from outside coming in as to, well, what if we're not if we're doing we have these three plans. For example, plan A is the best for the client but is giving us the lowest compensation. Plan B is a good plan giving us higher compensation. Plan C is not that great of a plan, so let's still present it. So this particular advisor was putting a lot of pressure on using the good plan, not the best plan, right? And it just got to the point that I just, I was always pushing back, and I would always say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what's best for the client. And, at some point I had to make the decision to essentially sever the relationship, and terminate that relationship because, I just felt that, when this matter of integrity, I had to do what was best for the client. And again, you know the compensation potential was huge because of the amount of clients that he was bringing in. So it was, it wasn't a small decision because, of course, as when you have a lot of clients coming in, it does have an impact on your practice. But I'm a strong believer, and I've been proved right by just where we are today, that if you always do what's best for the client over time, um, you know, eventually the business will come, right? Clients will continue coming. So, yeah, it wasn't an easy decision, but I made the decision to sever that relationship. And actually, in a matter of, I will say, 2 years, our practice almost tripled in terms of clients and business. How did it happen? We started getting a lot more referrals. A lot more clients were contacting us, and there were other relationships that came through with different contacts and other business entities and things like that. And and it was the right thing to do at the time. But what made the trigger was this question of this matter of the integrity, right? Are we doing what's best for the client, or are we doing what's going to benefit us as advisors over the client? And I just had to put the client first and sever that relationship.
Yes, doing the right thing, even when no one's looking or no one can see through, it's always pays off in the long run, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you never have to explain yourself on why you did the best thing for the client.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And it doesn't matter where the client goes. If you always do what's best for the client, sometimes other advisors will try to poke holes at your strategy or plan. But if you did what's best for the client, there's nothing to worry about, because you did what was best for the client.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have some young listeners, folks that are starting out or early in their careers or early in their startup launches and in our professions. And what advice, when you reflect on when you got started, what hints or tips or tricks of the trade, not just as a professional advisor, but as a business person, that you would share with our younger group in terms of helping them, uh, you know, heighten their trajectory and accelerate their process?
Well, just realize that business is a sacrifice. You got to believe in yourself and believe in what you do. You have to be motivated. Money should not be the motivation for what you do. If you're passionate and you love what you do, the income will come over time. Is Otherwise you're not going to make it. Especially I can only speak from my experience, because this is the industry that I've always been in. But I can tell you my experience at the beginning was challenging for sure. I started well, let me share this with you. I started in with a company, a pretty well established company, down in Newport Beach, um, financial planning or company. And there were a lot of advisors there that have been in the business for a long time, 20, 30, in some cases 40 years, very successful. um, but the environment wasn't quite a fit for me. I just realized that it was all about who's driving the bigger boat, the newer car, who has the bigger house, who has the bigger boat. It was just this kind of environment where a lot of competition about compensation, right? So they were very driven by compensation. um, and I just didn't feel like it was a good fit for me. So after a year, I just decided to go independent, and that's kind of how I started my own practice. And it was very challenging, because you go independent and you have basically zero income and essentially no clients, right? So there is a price to pay. There's going to be a lot of times. There were a lot of times that I was I had to count pennies to see how I was going to be able to make it at the beginning. And now you move forward, you fast forward 20, almost 25 years, where we are today from where I started, right? Not even knowing if I was going to make it. But to me, failure was not an option. I knew, if it takes me 3 years, if it takes me 5 years, if it takes me 10 years, somehow I'm going to make this work. And I did. I put a lot of hours. There were a lot of tears, a lot of restless nights, a lot of sacrifice. But that's something that you have to do. You just have to. But I had that passion. I just had that desire to to do this. To work with clients and help people. And as you know, as someone that is also in the industry, one of the most rewarding things when you have that view is seeing clients, or actually, seeing the difference that you have made in clients' lives. We have a number of clients that we started working with them 15 years ago, and they had no idea how they were going to be able to make it. And fast forward 10 years later, they're retired now, living their dreams, right? 15 years later. So, you know, you do have an impact but you have to have that passion. You have to have that desire, and you have to understand that it's a bumpy road. It's not easy, but you kind of have to put your head down and always be willing to learn. Put your ego aside. And if you can join someone that is been in the industry, that is willing and open to help you, to teach you, and this is something that now that I'm older, you know, I mean, I just turned 51. I mean, I'm going to be here for a long time, but I'm not 25 anymore. So I do have, you know, close to 25 years of experience under my belt, and I've been through, you know, a lot of these things. And I'm always happy to teach others that are coming into the industry. And my view is, if I could go back 25 years and I could join myself to someone that has been doing it and is willing to teach me, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, it will save you a lot of time, a lot of headaches, a lot of restless nights. So always be open to learn, be humble, put your ego aside, just realize that it's not easy, but if you're passionate and you love and you believe in yourself, you're going to make it work. That
Yeah,
will be my advice.
yeah, I heard in there the notion of persistence and perseverance, which, you know, I've always said when you're starting out, he or she that lasts wins. You have
Absolutely.
to last.
Right.
Figure out how to survive. If penny pinching, whatever you've got to do in the beginning, just survive. And
Hmm.
before long, it'll become an overnight success in 10 or 15 years.
Yes. And let me add this point, not, you know, since we're talking about this matter of integrity, you know, when you're in the business by yourself, you know, the first second year, you may come across a client that wants to give you a substantial amount of money, and now you have two options. Do I put it in this vehicle that is going to give you a higher compensation up front, or do you put them in this other vehicle that is going to pay you a lot less when you really need that income, but you know that this is what's best for the client? That becomes even a bigger test at that time, right? Because now you're in that position where you're not doing something that is hurting the client, but you know that there's a vehicle that is going to be much better for the client, but your compensation is going to be substantially less, and you're in a position where you need the income.
Yes.
My advice: always do what's best for the client. Don't pay attention to the income. Always do what's best for the client, because sooner or later it's going to come back and it's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit the client, of course, but long term it's going to benefit you as
Yeah.
well,
Regardless of profession or industry.
regardless of profession. Absolutely. Always do what's
And
best for the client.
regardless of profession or personal,
That's right.
right?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. We can't have integrity part time. We have to have it full time.
That's right.
Yeah. So JC, you know, well, our listeners, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that? A website, your social media, a phone? How do you, or what's
Sure.
various?
So absolutely. So we do have, you know, of course, they can come to our website or call the office. So our website is www.apexwmg.com. That APEX, and WMG stands for Wealth Management Group. So apexwmg.com. Or they could call the office, which that number is 714-919-4446. And they can call, you know, they can ask for either myself or Angela, and leave us a voicemail, or they can just send me an email. They can send us an email at contact@apexwmg.com. And then we, you know, I will see it, Angela will see it, and one of us for sure will respond.
Wonderful. Well, JC Rosario, it was a wonderful conversation to have with you. I really appreciate you taking the time out. You're a good man and a good father, a good husband.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ralph.
All right. Take care now, JC. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
Yes, the Power of Integrity podcast was better as a result of this time we spent together.
Very good. Thank you.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinion are as of this date, and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult legal or tax professionals for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Ralph Adamo is registered with, and securities are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA/SIPC 6451, North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33308. Telephone 95478-4771. Juan Carlos Rosario is registered with, and securities are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA/SIPC 6451, North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33308. Telephone 95478-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors, Inc. Apex Wealth Management Group is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc. No affiliations between Apex Wealth Management or Integrity Wealth Management with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors, Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc.